Welcome back to Disenthrall. So today we're back again with some new stories we'd like to share with you. My name is Ryan LaMarche.
I am Patrick Smith. We got some interesting, we got some intense, we got some funny stuff to talk about today. So thanks for watching. Okay, so we should lead off with probably the most important issue of the day. We have a mass shooting that happened, I think, late last night or early this morning in Florida. You didn't want to, when I brought this up and put it on the list to talk about this morning, this was a last minute thing, so we don't have a lot prepared on it. We just wanted to, I brought it up and said, hey, we should probably mention this. And you said, oh, God.
Yeah.
Hey, can you tell me, can you kind of tell them why your reaction was, that you don't really want to go into that?
Right. So I think that these mass shootings have become like a big drama for a lot of news organizations. And they like to speculate on a lot of stuff, which can be damaging to a lot of the victims' families if they say something that's not true. So they speculate on a lot of things, and they like kind of glorify the killer by plastering his face all over the place and saying who he is and what he's done, and it really gives, I don't know if it really gives a lot of steam, but it really it might help. It might promote more of these mass shootings. I don't know. I'm not going to say that's a true fact. That's like 100%, but I know that there's like so much speculation happens.
Well, one thing that's cool about having our own show is that we can decide how we talk about it and
Definitely.
how long we talk about it and what we actually talk. Right. So we're not going to do that.
Yeah.
What I want to talk about is the knee-jerk reaction that we've already seen this morning. So there are no facts out, really. There's really not much out about this yet, aside from the very basic, simple narrative of, there's a guy outside. There was a police officer working security for the club. It was a gay club called Pulse in Florida. I think he started shooting at the guy. The cop started shooting at the guy, and then he ran inside to the gun-free zone. That's important to point out. So
yeah.
the shooter ran into the gun-free zone before he started murdering people. Yeah. Right? Okay. So that's it. That's all I'm going to talk about the facts of the case. What I want to talk about now is the reaction that we've gotten. So the instant reaction we hear from the left is, ban guns. Mm-hmm. Gun control now is the hashtag trending on Twitter.
Yeah, they probably have that set on a macro on their computer. Like, mass shooting happens, fire everything!
Like, they have a soundboard,
yeah.
And they're like, ban guns.
Ban guns posts immediately. Let's get that shit trending.
Yeah, exactly, like a macro, and it just blasts out to everywhere, and then everyone retweets each other, and then it trends on Twitter, and
exactly,
and Twitter manipulates its trending, and
yeah, whoa, bro.
and then Facebook hides all the the opposing views, and
yeah, right.
That's how knowledge spreads these days, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, exactly.
Then on the other side, you have the right, which I think rightfully so, talk about how that's silly and how that's stupid and how it happened in a gun-free zone where guns were banned. So if you have a mass shooting that happens in a place where guns are banned, it's kind of a non-argument to say that we need to ban guns. That's the first thing. The second thing is that you have, I wanted to talk about Crowder. And I don't necessarily disagree with his where he's trying to go with this. He's taking an extreme stance to get eyeballs. Yep. So he's, when he saw the gun control now hashtag trending on Twitter, he tries to start, kind of a counter trend tag called Muslim control now. So obviously, this is designed to flare up and get people's attention and because it's obviously, that would be an evil thing, right? You don't control people based on their beliefs or based on their race. We're not talking about internment camps, and I don't want to try and jump to his defense, but the point is I don't think that's his goal. He's done some video content on YouTube in the past where and I don't have links prepared, but maybe I can get them in the description later, where he's actually done compare and contrasts between Christianity and Islam. And I think his goal with this is to try and point out that, well, first we should talk about, the FBI put out a tweet and this might have been stupid for them to do without actually putting out factual evidence, but they basically put out a tweet alluding to the fact that it could be, or maybe it was likely or something like that. I forgot the exact word, to be related to like a terrorist event.
Right.
Like this might have been terrorist motivated or you know, something like that.
The fact that the FBI and the authorities, they're kind of feeding this drama too. It's almost like it's becoming an episode of 48 Hours. I don't know if you know that show, but it's about these investigators that they have to solve a crime in 48 hours or else most of the leads disappear.
Yeah.
So it's a whole crime show, and it's almost like they're creating this and everybody's in on it.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's why I don't like it. Because it's just like a real fucking thing where people died, and we're making it into this big, like, the drama, it's great. I love watching this shit.
Now all the news organizations have the ability to grab people's eyeballs for a couple days and to raise their advertising revenue, right?
They love this. They love this because they don't actually have to talk about real shit for the next 2 weeks. They can just talk about this bullshit. Not saying that, like, the shooting was bullshit, but they're how they're portraying it, how they're going to use it. They're going to use it, and that's bullshit.
The using it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I got you. Yeah, so anyway, I don't think that Crowder's, control Muslims type hashtag is, Muslim control hashtag is meant to actually control Muslims. I think it's just meant to draw attention away from gun control and to, there's a crapload of people that exist in this world that follow, a certain religion and have some really dangerous views. And nothing I just said in that sentence was counterfactual. Like, that's evidence-based. There is a crapload of people, tens, hundreds of thousands, somewhere in there, I'm not sure what the statistic is off the top of my head, that have very dangerous views. So to criticize a religion in a situation like this, that could possibly be linked to that religion, I think is his goal. So that's really all I have to say on it. I don't want to belabor the point because we have no facts. I don't want to go into that.
I think the point to make about it is that it's obviously a huge tragedy and several people died, and we need to worry more about, like, who was hurt in the situation and the victims' families and helping them out.
Yes.
Before being like, who did this? Let's find out. Ooh, I'm so intrigued.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. So are we good with there?
Yeah.
Move on. Let's do it. I think you wanted to talk about
some things and stuff.
Ways.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Ways.
So yeah. Hold off on that image for a second here.
Hold off on the image. I'm holding.
Okay. All right, so this story is about the app Waze, where it's an app by Google that allows you to find really cool routes to your destination throughout the city, and it gives you little alerts about, like, potholes, vehicles on the side of the road, cops, and stuff like that.
I love that app. I use it constantly.
Super awesome app.
Yep.
And it has an amazing infrastructure behind it too. Like, blows my mind. So basically, this man, hold on for a second. This man, Timothy Connor of Maryland, was complaining because Waze was sending drivers down his neighborhood street where the traffic was light to none beforehand, and then Waze was sending people down the street. So go ahead and show the image of Timothy Connor of Maryland. Look at the way that they portrayed this guy on this article here. He looks like a goddamn American hero. He's like, no.
He just looks pissed off.
Not in my neighborhood.
He's like,
you're not going to use my roads as roads.
Yeah.
Yeah.
His public roads that we all help pay for.
Right.
Yeah.
No, sir.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
no through traffic.
Yeah. This guy obviously has nothing to do in his fucking life, because this is a quote from him in the article. I could see them looking down at their phones.
Oh, crap. Sorry. I'm, like, endorsing Starbucks here. Let me turn the logo around. Sorry, I interrupt. Totally. What's up?
No, he said, I could see them looking down at their phones. He's a water engineer at the federal agency. So, in response to these cars inconveniencing his perfect, lovely fucking neighborhood, he started reporting false reports on Waze to try and remove the traffic situation from this road.
Which right there is, I'm not a lawyer. I just, like, wish I was in another life.
No,
right?
you don't.
But it's I think it's called, like, tortious interference with business or something, where like you are purposefully, with malintent, interfering with a business, causing damage to a business.
Yeah. I mean, so the problem is that there's a lot of construction around that area. So people using Waze are trying to find ways around the bottleneck that's being created by the construction.
Yep.
But since Waze is kind of like this open source sort of interaction, I mean, there's a company that builds the app, but the way that information is spread through the app is through everybody that uses it.
Yeah, the people that use the app are the ones that generate the data in the app. Even
correct.
Sorry.
No, go ahead.
Even up to and including the actual map itself. And I tried it was actually like an obsession for like a 4-day period of my life until I realized what happened.
Yeah.
But like the participants, the users of Waze can actually edit the map and participate in creating the map. And they can do really cool things like live editing the map in situations of like a big sports game, or like if there's a big football game and road closures happen, people can go in and almost in real time modify the map to help people route their traffic around these traffic jams. Basically, it's like an attempted antidote against the terrible kind of road management that we get from the state.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it took 2 weeks before his account was basically banned from reporting anything on the map anymore because of all the false reports that he made. Mm-hmm. Now, Waze responded to the situation because it's not only happening in Maryland, it's happening in California and Oregon and all these other places where neighbors are getting pissed off because there's a lot of traffic through their neighborhood. And Waze was saying that it was their mission to distribute traffic more efficiently across the grid of public streets. So that's what one of the people from Waze said, and it's not to create traffic jams, it's to prevent traffic jams.
Yeah.
So what really scares me about this is these two statements from the article. In Los Angeles region, Waze's biggest U.S. market, a city council person representing Sherman Oaks is considering a motion asking the program to exclude some small residential streets from their algorithms. And their city councilman, Tim Mail of Maryland now, tried to get Google Maps to take note of the official detour by calling the company and flagging it through the app's feedback feature. So he wanted the app to use the official detour of the construction instead of sending people through other side routes.
That may be more efficient.
Right. So this is what is scaring me, because now that people are trying to use the force of the government to tell a company, Google, who owns the app, what to do with their app, just because it's some quote-unquote inconveniencing them.
Inconveniencing them. First of all, it's a public road.
Correct.
Right? So the people that help or that are robbed to pay for the road are basically, this guy's trying to deny them use of the road because he doesn't want the traffic down their neighborhood.
Right.
Which I think is a bad thing to begin with. But yeah, the government, I mean, this happens all the time, right? So like governments will tell Uber and Lyft, you have to do business this way in our area if you want to do business here.
Oh yeah. So, yeah, they're oh my God, Uber is having the hardest time.
Which is a whole other story.
Yeah, definitely.
I'm so proud of Uber and Lyft. Like, they're pulling out of these cities that try and overregulate them. So
right.
That's really
Instead
nice.
of just doing exactly what they say.
Yep.
Funny part that happened is this guy Timothy Connor actually complained to the city's public works and police departments, but nothing stemmed the flow. He put out 2 plastic Watch for Children figures, but one was hit by a car and the other was stolen.
Wait. So he put out like signs that look like children or something,
right, with
saying
the flag,
"Watch
I think,
for
probably.
children."
Yeah.
And one of them got ran
Right,
over.
Some guy was like, "Fuck your shit."
Oh man, that's interesting, and yeah, I
the
can
other one
see
was
why that
stolen.
would piss him off.
I mean, if I was a teenager and I saw that, I'd be like, "Oh, I got a new sign! Awesome!"
And he's like, "This is why our kids aren't safe, because if signs can get hit, then our kids
that's
can."
exactly what he's going to say. He's like,
sure.
"I did this for America and for the children." Okay.
All right.
Yeah. So that's Waze.
All right. Next, we have something really cool. So, Ross Albright is a web developer, and that's how I like to describe him, because that, I think, to me, he's like a web developer and activist, and that's my background. Like, I started with software development and then web development, and now I'm trying to be, the best activist I can be. And he, with his fingers, and we really haven't talked about this much yet, and I hope we do more in the future, with his hands typed on a keyboard and created code that brought into existence a website that other people used to buy and sell illegal goods. And he's now serving 2 life sentences after being charged with kingpin laws, as if he were some drug lord mob boss. So we are living in a country where you can make a website that robs you of your entire life,
Right.
based on how other people use that website.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry, that's just really profound. That's why I'm just kind of like...
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, yeah.
The idea that I can just type some stuff on this computer and have my life robbed,
Mm-hmm. It's completely fucked up.
just be thrown in a cage for the rest of my life because I typed, I spent some time typing things into a computer.
Right.
That's terrifying.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's terrifying, especially when I'm not the one. I mean, he's getting charged with drug kingpin laws. Even though he didn't like buy and sell drugs. Mm-hmm. He just maintained a website on Tor, which is a privacy-centric area of the internet, and
Right.
And other people chose to buy and sell illegal goods on his website, and he lost his entire life, and he's in prison right now. And so, anyway, that was just kind of the preamble. So his mother, his father, and many people have been running a Free Ross campaign for a long time. They had a brilliant idea. He, from jail, drew a picture of what he saw in the courtroom during his court case. And his family put this picture on the freeross.org webpage as a way to get donations. So they split the picture up into, 10,000 or something, little tiny squares, and covered them all up. And if you donate $1, you get to uncover a square. And so every time you donate $1, you get to uncover another square. So people, over a few months, flooded this donation site and uncovered their own little squares. I uncovered a fair share of mine and was proud to participate in helping fund his legal defense through this fundraiser, with the end goal being that eventually the entire thing gets uncovered, and those that ordered and donated will get a copy of the final uncovered drawing. And so that, I believe, just arrived a couple days ago, and I would like to unbox it here and show it to you guys. I haven't seen the final picture yet. I have not laid eyeballs on it yet. When I donated, it was very it was mostly covered, so I couldn't really tell much of what was going on. But I'm really excited about this. So here we go.
Oh wait,
I'm excited.
unboxing.
All right. Let's see. You got the right camera up? Okay, we're good. All right, I'm gonna take my headphones off so that this wire doesn't like yank everything off. Oh wow. Let's see. Maybe we should. Let's switch to my camera and then hold it up.
Okay.
So here we go. All right, let me hold it up.
Oh, this is kind of creepy.
I'll show it to them first, and then I'll look at it myself. So that is his representation of what he saw in the courtroom during his trial. So let's see.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I'm guessing that this is the prosecutor, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah. And this is like first person view, right?
And I guess this is him.
Oh, is that him? Okay. And who is this? The judge that we're looking at right now?
Or maybe this is. Oh yeah, I guess it's his perspective.
Yeah,
so
it's
this
probably
is him. This is
Yeah.
his perspective looking out.
Right.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, guys.
Wow.
Cool.
That's
we'll
awesome.
we'll have to add that to our wall for the next show.
Definitely.
Very cool. Yeah, be careful with that.
Yeah. Right.
Awesome. So, we wanted to share that with you. I was really excited to be a part of that. If you want to donate as well, you absolutely still can at freeross.org. I can also put a link in the description. Okay. Oh, let me get my headphones back on so I can hear.
Let's do it.
Oh, my turn. Let's talk about Brock Turner, the rapist. So this is him. I'm sure a lot of you have heard news about this. And again, I kind of want to have another meta discussion. Like other people do the basic discussions of what he did and the details and how horrific it was.
The evidence
And all that stuff.
Yeah.
You can find that other places on the internet. What I want to talk about, though, is the commentary. I want to talk about... There's three narratives being put forward by various people. One is... Okay, so the overarching subject is that he got off too easy. He got 6 months in jail for a pretty brutal rape of this drunk girl. It was him. He was intoxicated. She was intoxicated. She got more intoxicated than he did. I guess fell unconscious. Anyway, I don't want to get too much into the details, but it was a pretty nasty situation, nasty rape. He got 6 months in jail, which is, I think, a pretty light punishment.
6 months in jail?
6 months. 6 months for rape. And so everyone's understandably, I think, outraged at that. They're outraged for three reasons. Number one, they think that so his dad, I guess before sentencing, his father wrote a letter to the judge that was in his defense, and a lot of people think that that letter is what reduced the penalty or the jail time. And so a lot of people are reading this letter and critiquing it and tearing it apart and calling the dad all sorts of names for trying to write this letter to defend his son and reduce his sentence. I can't imagine any parent not trying to write the most, the best letter they possibly could to keep their kid in jail for as short a time as possible. So I don't really fault him for that, although a lot of people do. The next narrative is that it was a bad judge, like an evil judge, for letting him off easy. And there's petitions to kick the judge out of, I think it was, I don't know if it was a man or a woman, but kick them out of that position. That one's a tough one to talk about because, I mean, in these cases, you really have to... There's a lot of stuff that you hear and see in the courtroom that can influence your decisions in these areas, and none of us and none of the people commenting were there for a lot of this. I'm not... So all I'm saying is I don't agree or disagree with the judge's decision. I don't think or not think that she should be kicked out of, her position as judge. I just think that, you have to kind of be there to make those kind of calls. The third one, and the one that pissed me off, is the Young Turks.
Well, that's easy. They always piss you off, or us off, but yeah.
With Cenk and what's her name? What's her name? Okay,
No idea.
Cenk and it was he got a reduced sentence because white privilege. So because he was white, because he was a man, he got a reduced sentence. And I think there's some crime statistics that show that white people get shorter sentences than black people. I need to go look that up to be sure. But that got me thinking about another kind of privilege that exists, and I wanted to call attention to that. And I'm not calling attention to this to make people think that Brock's crime was less bad than or horrific than it was. That's not my point here. My point is to point out that there's a form of privilege that seems to exist that is even more powerful and results in even more reduced sentences for rape than apparently white male privilege does. So, with that said, I'm going to show you 5 rapists.
Yay!
That got sentences significantly lower than Brock did. So here we go. That's Brock. First person I want to talk to you about is Dale Couch. he got absolutely no jail time whatsoever. There is a very real possibility not only that he molested 3 young children, but also that because of his position as sheriff's lieutenant in Manatee County and the embarrassing nature of the case to the local government, he was granted the significantly reduced plea deal, which turned 2 counts of lewd and lascivious molestation of a child under age 12 and a third charge of lascivious molestation against a 12-year-old child into a single charge of battery with a year of probation as his only penalty. All right, that's the first guy I want to talk to you about. The second guy I want to talk to you about is Sam McHenry. Sam McHenry got 6 months in jail, just like Brock. He got a plea agreement reducing a felony rape and sodomy charge to sexual misconduct. The next person I want to talk to you about is John Van Trump. John Van Trump got no jail time. He was charged with super aggravated sexual assault on a victim under 6 years old. Ended up being sentenced to deferred adjudication for aggravated sexual assault of a child. I didn't even think you could get deferred adjudication for rape.
Yeah, that was the flavor.
Especially rape of a child.
Yeah.
Like, that is insane to me.
Good God.
The next person I want to talk about is Chris Carson. Chris Carson. Charged with forcible sodomy, aggressive sexual battery, and indecent liberties with a child. He ended up pleading guilty to a felony count of criminal solicitation and a count of contributing to delinquency of a minor and 1 count of exposing his penis to a child. For that time, he masturbated with a 7th grade boy. 1 month in jail. And last but not least, by any means, Jonathan Bleiweiss. He got 3 months in jail for each victim. He had 20 victims. He was accused of intimidating illegal aliens into performing sex acts with him. So, there seems to be there's one thing that all of these guys have in common. Number one is that they're police officers. So and maybe this is a controversial thing, maybe it's just the truth, but there seems to be blue privilege.
Yeah.
That can reduce your sentences even more than white male privilege. So, not to reduce the horrendousness of Brock's crime, but mainly in response to people like Young Turks, I want to point out that there might be a worse form of privilege out there, and that we need to, pay attention to. So, do you have any thoughts on that?
Not really. That's a heavy story, man. That's a heavy story.
Yeah, I'm not. And again, I'm not trying to pull the spotlight off of Brock, and I'm not trying to say that 6 months is a fine punishment. But mainly, it was the Young Turks that I wanted to respond to there.
Yeah.
Okay, so you had an Oklahoma story, right?
Yeah. All right, so with this story, Oklahoma Department of Public Safety. Let's just stop there. I mean, Department of Public Safety, they can't do anything wrong. I mean,
oh no,
it's the Department of Public Safety.
What did we just talk about? It's like blue privilege.
Oh yeah,
oh, okay.
yeah. Automatic. I hear that. I'm like, oh, they can do no wrong.
Yeah.
Well, they're about to do something wrong right here.
Oh no.
The Oklahoma Department of Public Safety purchased several ERADs.
Okay.
That's a pimp-ass name, right? An
which
ERAD.
Which is that device we just showed.
Yeah, it's an electronic recovery and access to data device.
It's basically like a... Sorry, go ahead.
It's a steal your money device.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, so this device is used to seize funds from prepaid debit cards. It's said to help with roadside seizures of suspected drug traffickers, which is, that's the guys that they use for asset forfeiture. They say that, why do you have this large sum of money in your car? You must be a drug smuggler. Let me take that from you, sir.
I want to learn about asset forfeiture in general. Like, what's its purpose? Maybe we need to talk to somebody, see if there's somebody we can interview that's familiar with this case. I know there's a lot of activists out there that are working to end it. I just don't know a lot about it yet, so that might be something. Do you know?
I know of the ways that it's used to do some really shitty things.
Okay.
To steal the money, and then a certain percentage of that money goes straight into the bank account of the police department that stole that did the stealing, and then they can use that money for whatever the fuck they want.
So the idea is that, I mean, this could be totally wrong, but this is what I think asset forfeiture is. Like, so if you're a drug dealer and you got a big wad of 20 grand in your pocket that you just made off selling drugs, and a cop busts you, they can confiscate that 20 grand. And instead of returning it to you as your property, they just keep it.
Right.
And it goes to, whatever fund, whatever municipality says it should go to.
Yeah.
Maybe even to the cops, which would be the biggest conflict of interest I can imagine.
Right. And there's a lot of fuckery that goes along with this because...
There's a lot of what?
A lot of fuckery.
Fuckery.
Yeah,
okay.
because I know the story of a guy that was traveling through multiple states to buy a car. So he was going to buy this car with cash. So he had a lot of cash in the car with him. And the messed up thing is that the burden of proof is on you in this situation.
To what? What do you mean?
Of why you have that large sum of cash in your vehicle.
Oh, really?
Yes. So you have to prove somehow that you have this cash for a legitimate reason. If not, the cop can seize your cash immediately, just on suspicion, and keep that. And then you have to go to court to try and get that back, which I've heard is one hell of a process.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you have to prove that you have to prove justification for owning property.
Yeah,
Interesting.
I have to prove
that can't be abused at all.
No, not at all. Yeah. So now we have these ERADs, and they allow cops to basically they can swipe a prepaid debit card. And they can freeze or seize the funds that are inside of that prepaid debit card. They can also gather payment account information from credit card and debit cards. So they can't seize or freeze money from debit cards or credit cards, but they can gather some basic information about the card if they want to.
Okay.
So we're not at that high level of you're fucked. Yeah.
So they can't just take your checking account and just empty it.
Yeah, they can't just empty your bank account. Correct.
Yet.
Yeah. That's coming without a doubt.
It's got to be.
So the contract was signed by the state, Oklahoma, and ERAD Group. This information was actually obtained first by Oklahoma Watch, which is some Oklahoma group that watches the government. And it states that the Department of Public Safety will pay a one-time fee of $5,000, a $5,000 implementation charge, and a $1,500 training charge for the devices, which means that more of your stolen money is being used to teach people how to steal your money.
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah. So how great is that? Woo!
That makes me excited to live here.
Yeah, right?
That's great.
Yeah.
Do other countries have asset forfeiture? Yeah, we got to get an expert on asset forfeiture on here.
Definitely.
I got a million questions right now.
Yeah.
So if anybody knows any experts on asset forfeiture or any activists or anything like that, let us know.
Yeah, definitely. The ERAD Group, which is the private company that made these devices, will receive a 7.7% cut of all funds seized via the card readers. So now we have this awesome situation because this company is using the force of the government to increase their profit. Their existence is now tied to law enforcement stealing as much from people as possible.
Wow.
How great is that?
That's perfect.
Oh, man.
That's exactly how I would have designed it.
It's like a perfect storm of bullshit.
That's how I would have designed the system.
Yeah. So, like I said, all they need is reasonable suspicion to steal your money, which we now definitely know has not worked in the past with just normal asset forfeiture. And of course, the burden of proof is on you. when the device checks the balance.
Sorry, I'm over here grinning. My wife just discovered the live chat for the video, and she's complimenting my sexy voice. So I'm over here like grinning. Sorry, guys.
Nice.
But that's a good time to point out that we do live stream this for the main purpose of getting viewer interaction. So if you guys watch live, I know we had some hiccups at the beginning of this particular live stream, but we're getting better. Please join us in the chat. Say hi, ask questions, let us know.
Definitely.
Continue.
All
Sorry.
right. So when a device checks the balance of the card, it even disguises itself as a normal vendor, so that the owner of the card doesn't get alerted to what the police are doing to the card.
Wow.
So now the officer can either seize or freeze the funds, and of course those funds go straight into the law enforcement's bank account. Prepaid cards are not covered by the Bank Secrecy Act since they are considered cash, so they're free game. And so this is what an actual ERAD group employee said at an anti-money laundering forum. He said, individuals do not have privacy rights with magnetic strip cards because the information on the strip literally has no purpose other than to be provided to others to read. That's what the presenter said.
Who said that?
One of the employees of the ERAD group.
Oh, of the ERAD, of course.
Yeah.
The company makes the device. Okay.
Right.
So, you don't have a right to lock your house because a key's literal only purpose is to insert into your
locks.
lock and unlock your house.
Right.
You have.
Yeah, we can extrapolate the shit out of that.
You can. Let's see what else. Because you can give your car keys to your friends if you need to loan them your car. You have no privacy to access to your vehicle.
Mm-hmm. It's saying that you have no right to exclude other people from your personal property.
If that property is ever meant to be shared with other people.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
As long as we point out.
As long
as we agree how stupid
we got
that
that covered. All right.
Yeah.
Amazingly, the state legislator now actually wants to do a study on this. Oklahoma state legislator, and they want to have a hearing on these card readers for concerns about due process and unreasonable search and seizures.
Okay.
Now, after they've already bought the devices and have already started using them, the state legislator is like, oh, we had no idea this was occurring. We need to probably do some studies on this to make sure that you're not breaking any constitutional laws. My advice for this entire situation is, for the love of God, use Bitcoin.
As much as possible, wherever possible.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. Use Bitcoin.
Well, you got any more?
No, that's it.
No, please continue, because the next story is not going to be fun for me.
No.
Okay, so save this one for last.
Yeah.
I actually had a lot of other content lined up to do for this show, but a friend of mine, during a recent conversation on faith, God, atheism, someone I consider a friend challenged me to go back and actually read a particular story from the Bible. He didn't poison the well. He didn't try and spin anything. He didn't even really get into the story much. He just suggested that I actually read it and think critically about what I read.
And just to say, this is an extremely popular story of the Bible.
Yeah.
And since people don't have the reactions that we're about to have from this, I'm wondering if people actually read this, or if they just kind of get the cliff notes from like movies and stuff like that.
Yeah, and so as kind of his assignment before I did my monologue that I've written here, he actually read the story in Exodus, chapter 1 to around 14-ish.
Yeah.
Of the story of Moses and the Israelites and the Pharaoh and the plagues and the exodus from slavery in Egypt.
Which there's an entire story on them just naming the families of Israel.
Yeah.
It's a great chapter. It's just them saying, and then there was Jebediah and Ezeph, and it's like, okay, wow, let's name the entire population of Israel real quick.
Can you imagine how long Atlas Shrugged would have been if she had done that?
Yeah, I know, right?
It would have been like...
It's like, half of it is just names.
It was already long enough.
It's just names.
All right, so...
All right, let's start it out.
I must say, reading the story for the first time since I was young has had a profound impact on my life and my faith. And I don't want to comment further until we get into this. So, the process of simply reading the Bible landed me with this something very powerful. I just felt I had to communicate. I had to prepare and share. And so that's why I didn't get to a lot of the other stories I wanted. So I apologize for that. But I think at least this is important to me. I want to run through the story of Moses, the Pharaoh, and the Israelites. To keep it to a reasonable time, I'm going to summarize the basics that we're already familiar with. I'm not going to actually read the entire book of Exodus. But I have to be honest, in rereading this with awake adult eyes, I was surprised and appalled by some of the things I found. Things that are never really discussed or mentioned in the movies, or in the movies of the story, or the tellings of the story in churches, are really, they really shocked me. All right, so basically, story starts out. Israelites are enslaved in Egypt. One day, God appears to Moses and tells him that he sees his people are being oppressed, so he's come down to rescue them. Moses basically says, "Why me? I'm nobody. I'm not good at public speaking." He also didn't believe that the Israelites would believe he was sent by God. So to help with this, God basically gives him the power to perform 3 minor miracles. He can throw his staff on the ground and it turns into a snake. He can put his hand inside of his cloak and pull it out covered in a severe skin disease and put it back in to heal it. Mm-hmm. He can get some water from the river, and when he pours it out, it becomes blood. So this was kind of, I don't want to call them magic tricks because they're from God, but like these are the divine micro miracles that he was upgraded, given the power to perform for the ends of convincing people that he was a messenger from God. It would seem to me that it would have been easier for God to just appear to the Israelites right after he appeared to Moses and say, "Hey guys, follow this guy. We're going to get you out of slavery." Yeah. But instead, we're going to do the minor miracles.
Moses has the magical powers to see God, okay?
And I don't want to turn this into making fun of little stuff in the Bible. That was just a logical kind of, why didn't, if it's okay to appear to Moses, why not just appear to your chosen people that you call your army, to tell them who you've, made their commander for the time?
Moses was the one that saw the burning bush.
Yes. So Moses packs up his family, starts heading to Egypt. And here is where I read the first verse of the story that really got to me and caused me to experience a lot of emotions, a whole mixed bag of emotions. Exodus 4, verse 21. "And the Lord told Moses, 'When you arrive back in Egypt, go to Pharaoh and perform all the miracles I've empowered you to do. But I will harden his heart, so he will refuse to let the people go. Then you will tell him, this is what the Lord says. Israel is my firstborn son. Commanded you, let my son go. I commanded you, let my son go so he can worship me. But since you have refused, I will now kill your firstborn son.'" This is God.
Yeah, this is actually a really confusing part because he's actually saying that to Moses. He's like saying I'm going to kill your firstborn son, but you need to relay this to the Pharaoh, right?
He's telling Moses to tell that to the Pharaoh. He's telling Moses, hey, go to the Pharaoh and tell him that God's going to kill his firstborn son.
Okay.
So God tells Moses, I kind of summarize it here. So God tells Moses, go to Egypt and go in front of the Pharaoh and perform all these minor miracles he's empowered him to perform to convince him that Moses is a divine messenger. But then God will, quote, harden his heart. Yeah. So that he will refuse to let the people go. So you've got a guy keeping a bunch of slaves. So you send another guy to try and convince him to let the slaves go. You give him the ability to perform miracles to prove that God is sending this message, which has got to be the most convincing argument possible ever, right? Mm-hmm. Transmutation of wood into snake, Yeah. And that's a pretty solid argument. And then you, being God, will interfere with Pharaoh's thoughts and feelings so that he will then refuse to free the slaves. My head is spinning at this point. So we're trying to convince Pharaoh to free the slaves. We give you miracles to help you convince that you're a messenger from God to order Pharaoh to free the slaves. And then God hardens Pharaoh's heart so that he will refuse to free the slaves. Yeah. Then after you remove the Pharaoh's free will to prevent him from even being able to agree to free the slaves, your message to them is that because he refused, you're going to murder his son. That's what just happened.
Right.
I'm at a loss for words.
I know.
Ethics requires choice. Choice is an effect of free will. If you remove free will you remove choice, and therefore the person can no longer be a moral actor. What that means is that the moment his heart was hardened, the responsibility for the despicable act of keeping and owning slaves moves from the Pharaoh to whomever interfered with the Pharaoh's free will, in this case, God. Let's continue. In the very next verse, it gets even weirder. Exodus 4, verse 24. On the way to Egypt, at a place where Moses and his family had stopped for the night, the Lord confronted him and was about to kill him.
Yeah, see, this is where it gets confusing, because this is right after he said he was going to kill the Pharaoh's first son. Now he's gone to Moses' first son, and is like, I'm going to kill you right now.
No, he was going to kill Moses.
He's going to kill Moses?
I had to look it up. I had to read the scholars that have studied this, hours and hours longer than I have, because I got lost here too. Okay. I kind of analyzed it after this,
sure.
But let me know if you're still confused.
Probably not after this.
So back to the verse. The Lord confronted him and was out to kill him. Verse 25. But Moses' wife, Zipporah, which is a sweet name.
Yeah, Zipporah.
Zipporah.
Yeah.
Okay. Took a flint knife and circumcised her son. She touched his feet with the foreskin and said, quote, now you are a bridegroom of blood to me, referring to the circumcision. And after that, God left them alone. So...
Did Zipporah just circumcise her husband?
To keep God from killing... No. Zipporah circumcised her son to keep God from killing Moses.
Okay. See, that was... Now I get it. That was confusing as hell.
It was.
Yeah.
And that's why I had to go look it up and actually research it. So when I first read this, it was hard to even tell who the Lord confronted and was about to kill.
Exactly.
So I did some research, and the experts seem to think that it was Moses. Why, you might ask? Why you did ask? Apparently, Moses' wife didn't want to circumcise her son that was recently born. So because she failed to do so after the correct number of days, which I think is 8 days, God was about to murder Moses for it.
Justified. Good.
So she quickly grabs a knife, and in what must have been an unsanitary, unanesthetized, brutal, and scarring experience for her son, cuts the skin off the end of his penis to make God happy. Then, in some kind of strange symbolic ceremony that I honestly would have expected to come from like the Satanist Bible, she touches Moses' feet with the bloody foreskin. God apparently saw this and was satisfied.
Yeah.
So he left.
Yeah.
As I wrote this monologue, I was again speechless and confused and angry. Did I ever actually read this story?
Yeah.
Does anyone? How do so many people claim to, but never actually see this stuff that's literally written here? This is crazy. Mm-hmm. This is crazy stuff.
Yeah.
So much doesn't make sense so early on in the story. We're in the very beginning.
Yeah, yeah.
Why would God try to murder the guy he just ordered to start trying to free the slaves? Why does resisting genital mutilation justify murder? Why do brutal actions like this satisfy God? Mm-hmm. What does that say about God? Mm-hmm. Why would you harden someone's heart against the exact thing that you're trying to make happen, and then punish the hardened person with killing their children? Now's your chance. If you got anything to say, I'm about to move on.
No, that's exactly, yeah. No, after this, it's basically just a loop.
Yeah.
Of this exact same thing happening over and over again.
Yep.
Nothing actually ever gets resolved. It's just. I don't know if I say now, but it's God proving himself over and over again, basically.
Okay. Let's continue. All right. So, next, Moses and his brother go back to the Pharaoh and basically ask him to give all of the Israelites a 3-day vacation to go pray. He says no, and then sends orders to have the slaves' manual labor tasks made even more difficult, probably because someone just finished hardening his heart. So, of course, the Israelites are pissed off, and they start getting angry at Moses. Moses goes back to God and rightly questions him. He asks God why he brought all this trouble on the Israelites. He said ever since he got this job of freeing the slaves, it's done nothing but make the Pharaoh even more brutal to the Israelites. And God isn't doing anything to actually rescue them. What a great question. I gotta say, that's a pretty logical thing to ask at this point in the story. God basically says, oh, you just wait and see what I'm about to do to the Pharaoh. By the time I'm done with him, he will force the Israelites to leave. Mm-hmm. At least, I guess, unless he hardens his heart again. Right?
That couldn't happen. I don't think that's going to happen again.
So God tells Moses to go back to Pharaoh and tell him to let the Israelites go again. Moses says he doesn't think it'll work, so God lays out his plan in Exodus 7, verse 1. Then the Lord said to Moses, quote, "Pay close attention to this. I will make you seem like God to Pharaoh, and your brother Aaron will be your prophet. Tell Aaron everything I command you, and Aaron must command Pharaoh to let the people of Israel leave his country. But I will make Pharaoh's heart stubborn, so I can multiply my miraculous signs and wonders in the land of Egypt. Even then, Pharaoh will refuse to listen to you, so I will bring down my fist on Egypt. Then I will rescue my forces, my people, the Israelites, from the land of Egypt with great acts of judgment. When I raise my powerful hand and bring out the Israelites, the Egyptians will know that I am the Lord." So, go ask Pharaoh. Well, so they go back to the Pharaoh. And the Pharaoh wants to see some proof. He wants to see a miracle to prove that Moses is coming from God. This is weird. Again, this is another, it doesn't make much sense.
Yeah.
So Moses whips out his staff, throws it down, and turns it into a snake. Surprisingly, Pharaoh's unimpressed because he calls out his own sorcerers, who then somehow turn their own staves into snakes as well. What they don't mention is why God gave these other guys the ability to turn their staves into snakes as well.
Right.
Why isn't that
he's
ever
the only
how
God.
How did they get that power? Where'd that come from?
Right, because it couldn't have come from him, the only God. So do they actually have magical powers?
Yeah, so again, I'm assuming no one has magical powers but God. That's my kind of assumption, right?
Yeah, right.
It seems like we're working against ourselves if we're trying to free the slaves. That's all I'm saying. So if that's our goal...
It's not. It's not his goal.
Like, I feel you have a point, and I think I know what the point is. Save it for me for a little bit.
Right.
All right. So next, what's apparently called for is a snake fight. In which case, Moses' snake eats the other snakes.
It's a snake fight!
Which I guess proves something important. But because the Pharaoh's heart had been pre-hardened, he is prevented from being able to listen or change his mind. So next, God comes down to Moses and tells him that the Pharaoh's heart is stubborn. Not sure why he's surprised by that, because he's the one making his heart stubborn.
He's the one doing it.
But let's move on. God tells Moses to go meet with Pharaoh at the river Nile, and he upgrades his staff. He gives it a new ability so that now when he touches a staff to the river Nile, it turns all the water into blood. So nobody can drink out of the river. And then he also tells him to raise his staff over the waters of Egypt and all of its rivers, canals, ponds, reservoirs. It basically turned all the water into blood everywhere in Egypt, even the water stored in wooden bowls and stones. And then for some reason, he left it that way for 7 days. People were forced to dig holes along the riverbank of the Nile to find drinking water to keep from dying.
Yep.
If someone today did this to all the water in a large metropolitan area, there would be a mass chaos and death. Many innocent people and children would die. That person would rightly be called the worst bioterrorist in all of history. So I'm not sure how this is okay. But plot twist, for some reason, just like with the staffs turning into snakes, God apparently also gave the Pharaoh's sorcerers, and the Bible says sorcerers, not me, the ability to turn water into blood as well. So Pharaoh was again unimpressed, and because of his hardened heart, ignored the request for freedom. Next, God gave them power to summon a mega city-covering swarm of frogs in an attempt to convince the hardened Pharaoh to let the Israelites go. But again, somehow Pharaoh's magicians also had this power to summon frog swarms. They could summon frog swarms too. So this time, though, it apparently worked. But after God killed off all the frogs, the Pharaoh changed his mind and told the Israelites they couldn't leave. Then they did the same thing with gnats. And then they did it again with flies. And each time Pharaoh told them he would let them go once they got rid of the plagues, and each time Pharaoh broke his promise. Next, God killed all Egyptian-owned livestock, but that got him nowhere. Then God infected everyone, innocents and children alike, with some sort of boil-causing disease. After that, God killed a lot of people and destroyed all of the barley crops with a big hailstorm. Again, Pharaoh gave up to make it stop, and again, Exodus 9, verse 35, because his heart was hard, Pharaoh refused to let the people leave, just as the Lord had predicted. Then they did it all again with locusts this time, and again the Pharaoh gave up. Exodus 10, verse 19, the Lord responded by shifting the wind, and the strong west wind blew the locusts into the Red Sea. Not a single locust remained. But the Lord hardened Pharaoh's heart again, so he refused to let the people go. Next they did darkness, and again the Pharaoh was coming around. But again, verse 27, but the Lord hardened Pharaoh's heart once more, and he would not let them go. Get out of here, Pharaoh shouted at Moses. I'm warning you, don't come back. The day you see my face, you'll die.
It's too bad they don't have copy and paste back then. It would really help.
I'm really trying to speed through this,
Yeah.
but it's the same thing over and over. Okay,
Yeah.
so this is when it gets dark, and we're almost done.
Nice.
Exodus 11, verse 4. Moses had announced to Pharaoh, quote, "This is what the Lord says. At midnight tonight, I will pass through the heart of Egypt. All the firstborn sons will die in every family in Egypt. From the oldest son of Pharaoh, who sits on his throne, to the oldest son of his lowliest servant girl, who grinds the flour. Even the firstborn of all the livestock will die. Then a loud wail will rise throughout the land of Egypt, a wail like no one has heard before or will ever hear again." That paragraph has done more to damage my faith in the Christian God than any logical argument or atheist book I've read.
Mm-hmm.
There's no justification for the mass murder of innocent children.
Right. Mm.
If this God does exist, I think we should be terrified, for he is an evil God who has committed great evils. And that's probably the most controversial thing I will say on this channel ever. But all I did was read the story. There's simply nothing more to say. So,
Yeah.
do you have anything?
Well, I mean, there is one more thing that happened after that.
Okay.
Did you? I don't know if you read this part, but
Yeah, I can continue on.
you don't want to read the rest of it?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Well, let me blow through it. So, God then told the Israelites to go kill a bunch of animals, rub their blood around the door frame so that God wouldn't sneak into their house at night and murder their children.
Mm-hmm.
Seeing as how God is able to see into each of our hearts and know our conscience and our minds, I can't imagine why this step was necessary, but the story is reading like some Halloween Hellraiser horror movie at this point. Exodus 12, verse 29, "And that night at midnight the Lord struck down all the firstborn sons in the land of Egypt, from the firstborn son of Pharaoh, who sat on his throne, to the firstborn son of the prisoner in the dungeon. Even the firstborn of the livestock were killed. Pharaoh and all of his officials and all the people of Egypt woke up during the night, and loud wailing was heard through the land of Egypt. There was not a single house where someone had not died." So the Pharaoh, probably holding the corpse of his murdered son, ordered the Israelites to leave. So I'm going to kind of stop the story there. There's more to the tale. I mean, we can talk about it.
Okay.
If you'd like to continue reading on your own, I suggest continuing from chapter 14. Pay special attention as you read on to the times where God continues to affect the state of Pharaoh's heart and mind to get him to continue pursuing the Israelites even to the end of his entire force's death. Make sure you notice the verses wherein God explains his reasoning for doing so. Please drop me a message through YouTube or by email with your thoughts. My email is patrick@disenthrall.me. Thanks for sticking with me through all that. I know it was probably kind of long, but it was like an important thing that I've been reading this week, and I wanted to share it. So,
Yeah.
hit it. What do you got?
Yeah. I mean, he's not even done. Like you said, to continue reading, but I mean that's also an important part. Whenever he's like, well, after killing all of your sons and all of your animals' first sons, you're free. You can go. I want you to leave. And then God basically dangles this bait out to him, and he's like, "Why don't you come and chase after us just one more time?"
He hardens his heart.
And then he finishes them. The final blow finishes everyone. It says in the Bible that everyone dies whenever the tunnel through the Red Sea collapses.
And I don't want us to talk about this because I kind of want to leave it for other people who actually want to figure this out. But there's verses in there where, after the point I said that you should probably continue reading if you want, where it talks about his motivation. Mm-hmm. Why did God harden Pharaoh's heart over and over and over? Mm. And his motivation, scary.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Was it to free the slaves? That's the question. That's the question. Was it to free the slaves?
The motivation stated in the Bible did not say his purpose was to free the slaves.
Right, which was where the story began. Yeah, that's a little bloop for
All
you.
right, so
Yeah,
that's our show.
there was no intent to resolve that in any other way than for God to prove exactly what He could do to the people of Egypt.
At the very beginning, when Moses first made the request, before any of the plagues, before any of the hardships, when Moses just went to Pharaoh, if God hadn't hardened Pharaoh's heart, who knows what he might have said.
Yeah.
He might have said no, because he was an asshole. He was a slave-owning asshole, yes.
Right.
But we won't know because his free will seemed to have been removed.
Exactly.
Right?
Yep.
Nah.
Man, it's a rough story.
So I want to thank my friend for asking me to actually read that. I don't know. That was big for me. I would love feedback. I'd love comments. If you have any insight, I'd love to hear that as well. That's our show for the day, right? Let's see.
That's how we do.
I got a quick. If anybody's still watching after that,
I know, right? Hey, fuck you guys.
I have so next time on our next Sunday show, we're going to try and do this every Sunday at 2. We're going to have Avital Schreiber, the Parenting Junkie is her YouTube channel. We're going to talk about, we're going to have some fun talking about the arguments the arguments for spanking, like why you should spank your kid. So if you've heard or have good arguments for why you feel or have heard other people say they feel the need to spank their kids, please submit them. Either through YouTube communication or at our email addresses, and we can include them in the show. We're going to kind of go through and really try and honestly tackle the arguments for spanking with her. So that'll be fun. And I think we're going to try to have some fun with it too.
Nice.
So in the future after that, we got some cool stuff. We might be interviewing the creator of Cell 411, the awesome sort of self-protection app. We have stuff coming up on Ross Ulbright. We might be able to speak with his mother soon. That's not locked down yet. We have exciting interviews with people involved with jury nullification, hopefully coming this month, from people that are both activists trying to get the word out about it, as well as people that have been for months now actively participating on jury, trying to free people for victimless crimes. So those are going to be cool interviews. Check us out on the socials. We've got a Patreon now. We accept Bitcoin donations to help pay for all this. If you found it useful, anyway, don't give us money if you didn't find it useful.
Right.
Do I even have to say that?
Yeah.
We've got some posters and bumper stickers on Zazzle, and we have an open bazaar now with those same products on it. So all the info will be down in the description. Tell us what you liked. Give us feedback. What can we do better? Sorry for the rough start to the show.
Yeah.
We're going to do better next time.
Definitely.
All right. Thanks for watching.
Thanks, guys.